I'm giving away 1% of my tournament earnings, and I'm here to congratulate 2 people that just won my giveaway here. I just cashed a $5,000 main event tournament this past weekend for $11,000, so big congrats to Dean Bolt for winning that one. Secondly, I cashed a $1,000 event earlier, a few days earlier as well, and I cashed for about $1,680, so big congrats to Pia Watts Super Prom for winning the $17 there. If you're living in North America, online poker is coming back, and I'm giving away 1% of my tournament earnings for the foreseeable future. Click the link in the description below to sign up. No purchase required. And big congrats to these 2 for winning this giveaway. Hello. This Asia trip has one more stop from Australia. Not really considered Asia, but I'm going to call Asia, to Taiwan, and now to Hong Kong. I need to find a better viewpoint. Transported to Hong Kong here for a quick pit stop because I have family here. This is where I'm from, and I figured there's no better way to kind of show off where like my family originated from than I'm at this place called The Peak, where you kind of just get to see the entire view of the entire city or state that you can call it. So later today I'm going to play a friendly little home game. The cool thing about traveling around poker is that everyone plays at some point. So I got invited to a local game, so shout out to them for bringing me in. It's going to be very friendly. 10:20 or 15:30 is the stake, but for now, gonna enjoy the view. Here's the view. Let's go over a little geography lesson of Hong Kong. In front of us here is supposedly all, is like the Hong Kong island side, which is supposedly all businesses and relatively new and tall buildings and such, apartments and stuff. And then if you can see all the way down there on the other side of the water, that would be called the Kowloon side, where like, I guess the city more so originated, and then everyone, as the city grew, they kind of moved out towards the island side. And I'm standing currently very high up on a mountain called the Peak. But I don't really know what this big building is, but it has some significance for sure. But a little geography lesson. Back there, Kowloon, here, Hong Kong Island. Wouldn't be a true Hong Kong travel vlog without some boba, of course. Okay, we have a bet. We went shopping. This is 1,300 US, give or take. If I win tonight more than 1,300, or win at all, which doesn't happen in the channel for some reason, then I would get this for sure, and I would wear this on Hustler or streams and all the things, because this looks insane, and I want to do something insane. And it's also really fun to wear like on FT streams and stuff, so that's the plan. We have a challenge. I mean, everyone's folding the moment they see me in this, right? Just all in, and then everyone's folding, of course, right? Alright, I feel like we just have to buy this. I hope I win.
Oh yeah, we just want to see Rampage blah blah, but I mean, just comments.
Thank you.
What was it?
Thanks so much. This is literally perfect. I'm here with my buddy Nick here.
Hi.
We met him from Taiwan, and for some reason I decided to trust him to show up with this game here. But thanks for the invite.
Yeah. Welcome to Hong Kong. Welcome to first time playing a friendly home game.
Lovely game. Thanks for having me.
Nice.
Good luck.
We've got 20,000 Hong Kong dollars in our stack, and we're playing 100-100. If you want to know the conversion rate, to be honest, I think Google's your best bet. Going to go ahead and convert this back to USD at the end of the video. So with $200 straddle on, we've got the low jack raising it up to $600, and I pick up the king 10 of diamonds in the small blind. Right off the bat, we're going to get spicy with a 3-bet to 2,500. Action folds to my opponent, who ends up 4-betting to 6,500. Oh no. I immediately say, ayah, you know, I can't really call when that happens, and I just let it go, and my opponent shows pocket aces, so nice hand to you. I guess I lose some money, but I avoided cooler. But then we get rewarded with pocket kings. In the big blind, the cutoff raises to 300. I decided to 3-bet this one to 1,500, and my opponent actually makes the call, so we've got a big pot brewing already on the flop to 9-7 deuce rainbow. Here, I think sometimes I can put in some traps and check, and with kings that doesn't need that much protection, I decide to check, and she checks this back. Turn comes a deuce, bringing in a full rainbow. At this point, definitely need to put some money in the middle, although I don't know what I get called by. I bet a small amount to 1,000. Then my opponent raises to 3,300. All right, that is a little scary, but I don't know what she could be repping. If she had a set and slow played it and now it turned into a full house, that makes some sense, but also very unlikely. I make the call, and the river comes another board pairing 7. So 9-7 deuce, deuce 7. I check once again to my opponent, and she fires out 7,200. All right, this seems like a pretty easy call, all things considered. Raising seems really silly as I don't get called by worse hands, and I do make the call and win against ace-5 of diamonds. So happy to win this one, first significant pot in play. And after this hand, we add in for 40,000 Hong Kong dollars more, in for 60,000 total, because, well, action is going bananas. The next clip you're going to see is a 70,000 Hong Kong dollar pot. It's a straight versus top set, and oh my goodness, they run it twice, and top set turns into a full house on both boards. So pretty bad beat for the straight, and especially for a pot as large as this. 70,000 Hong Kong dollars is about $10,000. So here we go with the action ready to go and primed. We pick up pocket queens on the button. Early position raises to 400. I just make the call as my opponent is playing very deep, 60,000 chips deep, by the way. So just gonna make the call, small blind flats as well, and then the big blind raises to 2,600. The early position player original opener makes the call, and now this is a pretty tricky spot. The big blind has about 35,000 in the stack, and like I said, we're playing 60,000 deep with the other opponent. I'm going to back 4-bet in position to 7,000. Does this make any sense at all? I actually have no idea, but we're feeling things out as we go. I've got pocket queens. Let's just see what happens. When the small blind folds, we're back into the big blind, who then makes a 5-bet to 16,000. Oh my God, how many possible bets could there possibly be in this one hand? And then what's even crazier is the early position player calls as well. I don't know what's happening anymore. We have a raise, call, re-raise, call, then another raise, followed by finally a fold, then another raise, a call, and back onto me. That is a summary of the pre-flop spot so far. If you couldn't follow along, I don't blame you. Anyways, I'm never folding, and I decided to just make the call. I don't want to be all in. I'm not really sure. So making the call, 3 players in with over 48,000 in the mill already. The big blind has 20,000 back, and the other player covers me. So we've got around 45,000 left to play with. We're off to a flop, which comes king, 7, 2 diamonds. Big blind fires out a bet, a whopping bet of 5,000. 10% pot bet, pretty much a little tickler here. Early position player makes the call, and now I'm stuck here with queens, really confused. I call as well, because raising seems scary, honestly. The turn is a 4, I believe, and now, what's even crazier, both players check it to me. Okay, at this point, it's kind of clear I have the best hand, potentially, although I can't really be sure. Like I said, I'm unfamiliar with how these players play, and I can be behind ace-king a lot, which seems to make a lot of sense. So I decided to throw out 15,000. It's a pretty small bet relative to the size of the pot here. The big blind player who originally 5-bet ends up folding, which kind of makes me feel way better about this hand, considering he was the 5-better and he can have aces and ace-king and all those things. But the early position player comes along for a call for 15,000. So we've got a pretty big pot brewing, and the river is now the jack of diamonds. Oh my goodness, probably the worst river ever. Pocket jacks that I was ahead of, no longer ahead of, and a flush wins as well. What makes this hand really strange is my opponent leads out for 15,000. I mean, given the price, how can I ever fold here? I mean, there's over 100,000 in the middle, and I just have to call 15,000 with queens with a diamond. I assume I'm going to be losing a lot of the time, but good luck us. I stick in a call. He says he has pocket 9s, and oh my goodness, my queens is going to win? This is a 120,000 Hong Kong dollar pot. The highlight earlier was 70,000, which was one of the biggest pots they've ever had here, and I just won the largest pot that Nicholas has ever hosted in his game, and it was against him as well. So it feels pretty bad, but it's nice to win a big pot on my end of things because it's been a pretty tough stretch for me personally. But still, pretty crazy to play the biggest pot of this home game ever, worth over 120,000 Hong Kong dollars. So safe to say, things are going well, riding the momentum. There's an undergun raise to 700. I decided to call the ace-king offsuit, and this allows 5 other people to call around me. So we're off to a flop of king 8-7-2 clubs. Action checks to me here. I decided to fire at 1,000. And now 3 opponents around me make the call, and they're all in position to me. So now I'm maxed out of position, 4 players left to a turn, which is the 5 of clubs. Now, with the flush draw completing, I start off with a check. Action checks around to the button, who bets 3,000. I decided to come along for a call here in this instance. To be honest with you, I actually thought I had the ace of clubs, so I kind of wanted to go for a little trap or some sort of bluff on the river here. But when the river is a club, I'm actually quite happy. That is until I realize I do not have a club when I checked my hand. I check to my opponent, she fires out 4,000. I check my cards, no club. And it's very obvious because she had the ace of clubs followed by a 3, so already hit the nuts on the turn. A good river for me to make a very easy fold. And now the next hand gets a little dicey with Jack 9 off suit in the cutoff. There's a low jack raise to 300. Hijack makes the call, and I decide to squeeze it up to 1,800. You might be asking yourself, why am I not squeezing the ace king, but I'm raising the Jack 9? Well, very simple answer to that is that we're in Asia. Jack 9 offsuit is a natural 9 in Baccarat. So of course we're going to do it. And there's a 3-bet to 1,800, and I get the button, small blind, and low jack to call. Suddenly, I feel like I need to rethink this whole 3-betting thing because no one cares about it. But the flop comes 10-8-5-2 clubs. So we got an open ender with an overcard. Action checks to me. I fire up 4,000, and hey, no more resistance. Everyone ends up folding. So I'm going to take down a pretty decent sized pot here as the pot kind of built up pre-flop. Everyone called my 3-bet. Moving right along with 6-7 of clubs in the straddle of 200 bucks. The early position player raises to $700. Action folds to me. Happy to defend and make the call, which comes queen 9, 8, 2 hearts and a spade. Action's gonna go check, check, and we're off to a turn, which comes the 8. I decide to fire out 2,000 here. Thinking my opponent isn't gonna have a whole lot when he checks back on this flop, I feel like he's gonna be betting a lot of his stronger hands and trying to apply pressure. He does come along for a call though, so I'm gonna be blasting out on a lot of river cards, and then it's the 5 of diamonds. Yeah, somehow find an offsuit 5. One of the very few cards where I actually bink what's effectively like the nuts behind a full house. So for that reason, one of the best cards I wanted to see, I decided to go big here for 7,500. A really large overbet trying to just look bluffy, and honestly, I'm gonna have a lot of bluffs, and if I didn't hit this 5, I was gonna fire out a really large bet anyways. So for 7,500, my opponent does make the call, and my straight is going to win. So once again, living pretty smoothly, hitting some value, and getting paid as well. In the next hand, we pick up ace 3 of spades in the small one with a $200 straddle on. Action folds all the way to me here, and being out of position against both of my opponents, I decided to limp in. It might not be the best strategy, but I have a plan for it, don't you worry. The big blind makes the call as well, and then the straddler isolates and raises to 1,100. This is when I decided to turn my hand into a pretty good 3-bet bluff candidate. Ace 3 doesn't connect with some stuff, and I can fold out some better aces, of course. So I make it 4,500 to go. The big blind, who's been caught in the middle of it, ends up folding, but the straddler does come along for a call. So now off to a flop of king jack 5 rainbow. Here on a board like this, definitely going to be c-betting, so I make it 2,000. And my opponent does come along for a call. When the turn comes to the queen of diamonds though, here having some second guesses on how I want to approach this hand. I think a lot of the hands he's going to have is going to connect with 2 pair, or at least a pair plus straight draw. So at this current moment, I don't think I'm really able to bluff him off, and I don't think it's even a good idea to even put any money in the middle. So I check, thinking that this card's going to hit my opponent a lot more than me, and he checks this one back. Now off to a river, which comes a brick 4 here. When my opponent checks this back, I'm pretty confident that he doesn't have a very strong hand. And when I think that's the case, I want to apply some maximum pressure on my opponent to fold. And that's going to come via another overbet of 16,000. Here, my opponent goes into the tank for a very, very long time now. And during his tank, I'm just hoping for a fold because it seems like there's a very good chance of this happening. Sitting with ace high in a dream, I block like a straight, I guess. But hey, just fold your hand. But then he ends up raising to 50,000. Yeah, that's immediately going to push me out. Obviously, sitting with ace high. My opponent really slow rolled me into thinking that he was going to fold, and turns out he just had a very strong hand and gets me off of it. The knight is going strong still at this point with many big hands happening. We've got the $400 straddle on. Yeah, that's right. This game has gotten big and we're gambling. The low jack raises to 1,200. I'm in the big blind with pocket sixes. I decide to call and everyone else ends up folding. So off to a flop now of king 9-9 rainbow. I check to my opponent and he fires out 1,300, similar to a half pot size bet. With sixes definitely too strong to be folding, I make the call. Turn comes 8 deuce, so action's gonna go check here on this brick card. So definitely confident in thinking sixes could be a good hand here. But now onto the river, which is the 5 of diamonds, another very safe card for sixes. And how could I possibly get a hand like ace high to call? I decide to fire out 3,000, thinking that I can go a little bit bigger on this board. A lot of hands miss, and maybe I can even get a hand like ace 5 in there, ace deuce. A lot of different hands like that exist for sure. And my opponent goes in the tank before making the call. I feel good about it, but he shows pocket eights for a higher pair. That's better than sixes. I'm gonna lose another pot here. So downtrending near the end of the night. That is before we pick up ace king yet again, but this time it's ace king with a little caveat. The squid game, or what you better know the game as, stand-up, is on, and we're down to the final 2 players. If I lose this hand, then I owe the table 4,000, and here we go. 5 players limp to me. I decided to raise it up and isolate to 3,000 because I've got a great hand, and definitely don't even want to see flops. But hey, the action is here to stay. There's 3 players around to call, and one of those callers happens to be the other last opponent of the squid game. So seems like there's going to be some blood in this hand. Flop comes queen jack high, so I'm sitting with just 2 overcards and a gutter to Broadway. Action checks to the in position player who fires out 5,500. This is the opponent that we are up against in the squid game. So one of us might lose this hand and pay the table an extra bounty. I decide to call, of course, never going to be folding, and everyone ends up folding. So here we go. The squid game is on the line in this one for pretty high stakes, or 4K to the table. The turn is a black 10. Oh my God, you couldn't script this any better. I bink the gut shot and I check to my opponent and she fires out a monstrous bet of 30,000. She's got about 55,000 behind, and I definitely see the option to like jam because, you know, you have the nuts and she doesn't have that much behind. But the thing is, I really just feel like my opponent is going to be bluffing off the rest of her stack if she has a bluff. So if she has a good hand, she'll just value bet and be all in anyways because I'm going to be so wide. And I think if she's bluffing, she's also very likely to bluff it off because she wants to win the hand for the squid game. So for that reason, I make the call, and we've got another massive pot brewing here. The river is the 4 of diamonds. Not the best card to see in the deck, to be honest. Flush draw gets there. I check to my opponent, and she snap checks this one back, which is sad. I show my hand. Obviously, it's the winner. But then my opponent shows king 9? Oh my goodness. I don't know if I'm just really bad at poker or my opponent is literally the sickest player ever. So shout out to her for making an insanely good check back. Let me know in the comments below. I think I have a feeling of where you guys are going to vote on this, but man, this feels bad to not win the maximum. You know, we both hit our gutters. It's the nuts versus second nuts, and I don't get it all in. Pretty unlucky, yet also obviously very, very lucky for me here to win this monstrous pot. We're moving on to the last hand of the night with Queen 10 of clubs. I'm in the cutoff and the hijack raises to 300. I'm gonna make it 1200 here to 3-bet my opponent. And then the small blind 4-bets to 3800. Action folds to me. I didn't come all the way here to Hong Kong to fold 40% of a royal flush. So we're in here to make the call, and the flop is ace queen 10 rainbow. Pretty amazing flop with bottom 2 pair. My opponent fires out 3500 as a bet. Pretty large chunky size, to be honest with you, and I'm obviously not going to go anywhere. I think raising is a little scary, so coming along for a call. Then the turn is the 9 of clubs, bringing in a backdoor flush draw, which is really cool. And now my opponent starts off with a check. At this point, definitely got to think I have the best hand along with the redraw to a flush. So gonna fire some money into the middle. I make it 10,000. And my opponent, 10,000. Pretty large bet here for this game. He makes the call. So we're gonna be off to a river. I'm kind of just hoping for a flush to make my life and decisions very easy. But the river is a 8. My opponent checks once again. And now at this point, I really don't see any point in betting. You know, I just have middle 2 pair along with any 4-liner of a jack to make a straight. I check this one back and my opponent shows ace 9 for a higher 2 pair, and I'm going to lose a pretty chunky pot to end the night, at least giving some back to the lovely people of Hong Kong. But what an epic and insane session this was.
Well, this is a sign of what happened last night. Time to make a purchase. A deal's a deal.
Yeah, I think that was the one.
It's a super,
Very flashy.
very
and
flashy
Ridiculous.
Yes.
poker night.
All right, say hello to the to the new purchase. So indication, obviously, I won yesterday during that very, very fun game. Big thank you to Nick for the invite and hosting. It's cool that they have like a setup like this that is rake free and a very fun group of people that just enjoy playing poker, and they like watch all the hustler streams and stuff. So that was fun to play with them. A lot of action, and I'm gonna close it out with the results. I was in the game for 60,000 Hong Kong dollars. Then I cashed out for 117,000 Hong Kong dollars even. So I won 57,000, then minus 2,000 Hong Kong dollars to pay for food and the dealer, which seems standard, and then profited a total of 55,000 Hong Kong dollars, which is roughly 6,900 US. All of that said, 6,900 US minus the 1,300 Louis Vuitton, these things, I don't even, the ski goggles. That is a profit of whatever it is here, and it's a positive for the road to $1 million. Finally having like back-to-back winning sessions, unbelievable. So now that you've seen this vlog, now you know why I'll be wearing this on stream for a while. I think I love how ridiculous this looks, and now you know the backstory behind it if you watch this vlog. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you next time.